Hi, how are you? So, I thought for my first episode that I would start in and explain generators in human design and how I've learned so much from it and um, explain how it's helped me and kind of educate you on you know how I've used it, how I've allowed it to empower me to live a more authentic life. And then I thought, what is the most authentic thing to actually have for your first podcast? And my answer was to start from the beginning. Not the way, way, way back beginning, but how am I here in a hotel in Georgetown, Texas, and not either traveling or at my home in Maui? And my answer is I did not follow my sacral. And that is like, I don't want to say the number one rule for a generator, but that is the way to live a most aligned and authentic life. And hindsight is 2020, and we get to look back and see what we have learned. I do, right? I get to look back and I get to learn where were all the steps that I did not listen to my gut? Where were all of the places along the way that I tried to logic my decisions versus listening to my gut? And there were several. It started in December, well, a little bit earlier than that, right? When we were looking for a place to live. Our lease was going to be coming up. And when I was in Thailand in November, I was like, I'm not going to be searching for a house while I'm in Thailand. And so I decided that when I got back, I would start looking. And nothing was really opening up for us, in the sense of there was nothing that I was looking at that I was like a hell yes for, which is another sign as a generator that if it's not a hell yes, if it's a like, it'll do, it's a no. And so that was my first, looking back. These are like all the little notch marks along the way, right? And knowing that my family, my husband and my daughter, really wanted a home base. And when my daughter would ask me, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, we could just travel for a bit. And, our stuff's already going to be in storage and we could figure it out just along the way, give us some time to kind of visit different countries, places, and just see if Maui is still where we want to live. And I knew that that was going to be uncomfortable for my family to do that. And so I chose to compromise myself and find us a place, right? Notch number one. Okay. And so then, as I was looking, and the other thing for me, and I'll get into this in later podcasts, I'll break all of this down for each of you. But the way that my blueprint is, my human design chart is I am a defined emotional solar plexus. And like I said, I'll explain all of this in a later podcast for you. But the key point here that I have had to learn is I have to what's called ride my wave, right? So I might be a yes or a no. And if I'm a no, I just leave it alone for a while. But if I'm a yes, I need to sit with that yes for a while. And that wave, depending on how long or how, let me just say this, not how long, but how big of a decision, like let's say going in business with someone or moving somewhere or, taking a job or, whatever that might be, a big decision for me, it takes me some time. It might take me a week. It might take me a month, and what I was feeling was the pressure to make a decision. So at the time, my business partner and I were working in this direction to build the business, right? And she had made this suggestion on numerous occasions, why don't we live together? And I was immediate no. Now, one of the things that I have learned is we can turn our no into a yes with our mind, right? And I wasn't listening to my sacral. My immediate no was my sacral. That was my gut response, no. But I was able to logic it, right? And make sense of it. Like, well, it will help build the business, or, oh, it will, you'll be able to create so much content from all of, living together. And like, my mind gave me all of these ideas and reasons why it should work. It would be helpful. It would insert, right? All of the things. So I logicked myself into saying yes. And there were even points along the way, as I had said yes, and as I was looking for houses for my family and my business partner and her husband to live together, that were a gut no for me still, right? The project manager was a little off, like the way that he did business. I am not that, I wasn't jiving with me. And so there were all of these, I will call them like breadcrumbs, right? Or cookie crumbs, whatever you want to call it, that just along the way, my gut was like, no, 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 no. And I remember Oprah saying this, the whispers are there, right? But if we don't listen to the whispers, we get a slap in the face. And I'm paraphrasing, right? But this has all happened for me. And I share this with you so that you can use my experience as a way of, if you have generator tendencies, if you check your human design and you are a generator, you are meant to make decisions from your gut. And we have been so conditioned, either with society or growing up, or, all of our conditioning and our imprinting, to make decisions with our minds, right? Pros and cons list, and like, let's make an Excel spreadsheet, and, let's talk to lots of people and get their opinions. But really, the buck stops with us. The buck stopped with me. And that is what I have learned over the last 4 months, that I have to make a decision from my sacral that feels good for me. And if it is not a hell yes, if it is it's not a yes, right? It's a no. And trusting that sacral response is going to lead me to the next thing. And I think when we have also been so conditioned to be in our minds and like trying to plan out the how and make it work, and think, our body knows way more than our mind can even imagine or plan, right? And so this experience has been a surrender, it has been a trusting, it has been a letting go, it has been a deep reflection of honoring my sacral above all else. That means that sometimes other people get really upset with me. Sometimes that looks like it disappoints people, or they're sad, or, we can't make anyone feel a certain way. And also, things that we do elicit responses in other people. And so, after I had moved in, I had realized that this was a no. I do not want to live with anyone else. My previous business partner, her husband, are amazing people, and I want to live with my family, and that is it. And I had to make the decision, do I want to stay here for a full year, or do I want to honor my gut? And this decision didn't happen overnight. It probably took me 6 weeks to come to, right? Like, I knew immediately in my gut I was a no. What I needed to work through was the emotions that I was processing as I was, coming to understand that I was a no, and what that meant for the business, what that meant for our relationship, what that meant for our living together, what that meant for my family and living together. Like, there were so many, I call them like spider webs, right? Or there were so many things that I was, and when I say considering, I don't mean as in taking into account all of that and then making a decision from that space, but I knew that my decision was going to impact several areas and people in my life, right? And coming from a place of pure love and compassion for myself and for everyone else involved, right? So I knew that I wasn't going to live together for the next year. I knew that there were misalignments with myself and my business partner and where we were headed. And I needed to honor that. I needed to honor saying yes to myself, even if insert whatever, right? Everyone got upset, everyone left. I didn't think that that would happen, right? But like really honoring our sacral yes. And allowing myself, I think in years past, what I have done is I can make a very quick decision. That's also from my conditioning. I can make a very quick decision. And what I have had to do is allow myself to, I know the decision that I want to make. And before I tell someone or I do the thing, allowing myself the time to process those emotions that need to occur in order to, and then getting back to the way I make decisions. If you are emotionally defined in your solar plexus, you will need to ride your wave. And what that means is you will need to take it to the high, the excitement, yes, 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 and then fall down to the like, ooh, I don't know, and then get to a neutral point, right? And you'll never be 100% certain, maybe 70, 80% certain, but there will be a neutrality in your decision, right? When I decided I was a no, originally, there was a lot of emotions with it, right? But as I rode my wave, as I decided I'm still a no, it came with like, I can only describe it as like peace or a knowing or just calm, right? There was just calmness in my decision once I had ridden the wave and processed a lot of my emotions. Yes, I'm still processing, more of the emotions that I have, but in telling her and making that decision and telling Jason, it was very much so a very peaceful place that I was at, right? So if you want to call it a goal in life, is to be the most authentic self that I can be, right? And I had this vision years ago of always, of like having nothing off limits, of sharing my life through the lens of authenticity and integrity and passion and adventure and play. And so when I was thinking about, starting the podcast and, opening up the curtain and letting you see into my life, the most authentic, the most real, the most vulnerable thing that I could do was to start with, how did I get here? And share with you that, and then take you through, because I think it's easy to teach and to talk about all of these concepts in theory, but are we actually living it? And I want to be transparent, and I want to be vulnerable, and I want to be authentic and within integrity. When I think of authentic, I think of integrity, right? Like I go first, I share those deep, sensitive, open heart, soul to soul, conversations that sometimes some people aren't willing to have, right? Because it might be too vulnerable. And for me, it is important that I share those because soul to soul, right? Like we want that connection. We want to know, hey, I'm not the only one that experiences this. So fast forward, now it's April 7th, and we're staying here until the 15th, and we are working towards what is the most loving thing for my family and her family to do to unwind the living situation together. And allowing time and space for her to process, her and her family to process, allowing my family time and space to process, and in the most loving way, right? I think before, like I've said, I've made decisions from like, okay, we have to make this rush decision, or like it's this decision we got to do, right? And now just being at a very calm and peaceful place, like whatever she needs in order to decide what she wants, what's best for her, and whatever we need to decide what's best for us. I know that I want to be able to travel more months out of the year than I don't. I know right now my husband is open to having that be a possibility for him in the interim. Um, I don't know if my kid is completely on board, and that's okay too. And I think that for me, when I set intentions, when I set, yeah, intentions and my desires, what do I want? Becoming unattached on how it gets there, right? Like when we set our intention of what we want and why we want it, those are our two responsibilities, right? What is it that we want and why do we want it? But how it comes, it's not our job. So I'm setting the intention that I travel the world in luxurious places and meet amazing people. And I share my knowledge and my experience with each of you. And I inspire you to live a most authentic life that that what that looks like for you. And inspiring, all the generators in the world to start living from their gut, their AKA their sacral, and not their head. And that is going to look different for every person, right? I say like living an unconventional life, like it's going to look different for each one of you, and that's okay. And living most true and authentically to yourself and honoring your heart, your desires, and what lights you up. Because I think this is a Howard Thurman quote, but he talks about like the world doesn't, um, don't ask what the world needs. I'm paraphrasing, right? Like, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and then go do that. And that's what my desire and intention is for each of you. Because when we are more lit up, when we are doing the things that we love, whether that be with our work or our hobbies or just every area of our life, when we are doing the things that we love, we have this magnetic energy and we draw people to us, and people want to be around us, and we uplift other people. And so that is my intention, that each one of you come back home to yourselves, that you honor your sacral above all else, even when your mind is screaming at you, even when it doesn't make sense, all of the things. So with that said, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. From my soul to yours. Until next time.